Captain Jake Morrison stood at the bridge of the New Horizon, watching the massive space station grow larger on the main screen. Harmony Point looked like a giant wheel spinning slowly in the darkness of space. Lights dotted its surface like tiny stars, and ships from different worlds moved around it like busy insects. "First time seeing something this big, sir?" asked Lieutenant Alex Stone from his position at the communications desk. Jake smiled but kept his eyes on the screen. "Not really, Alex, but it's the first time we're supposed to act impressed by it." Dr. Lisa Grant walked onto the bridge, carrying a tablet with her notes. She wore the simple blue uniform that all human diplomats used for official meetings. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat style that looked professional but not too formal. "The alien representatives are already waiting for us," she said. "Ambassador Zeth Kalar from the Hegemony Council, War Prime Vexler from the Zentari Empire, and Scholar Nixara from the Ethereal Collective. They've been watching our approach for the last hour." Commander Ryan Burke looked up from his tactical display. "I bet they have. Our ion drive signature is probably fascinating to them." He said the word fascinating like it was something funny. Jake nodded. "Remember, everyone, we're just a young species taking our first steps into the galaxy. We're curious, a little nervous, and very grateful for this opportunity." Dr. Helen Torres entered the bridge carrying a small device that looked like a simple scanner. "The power readings are set to baseline levels. Everything looks appropriately primitive." "Good," Jake said. Alex opened a channel to the station. The main screen changed to show a large room inside Harmony Point. 3 very different alien beings sat at a curved table. Ambassador Zethkalar was tall and covered in dark green scales. His yellow eyes blinked slowly as he watched the humans. War Prime Vexler looked like a giant insect with 4 arms and a hard shell that gleamed under the lights. Scholar Nixara appeared almost human, but her skin was pale blue and her eyes were completely black. "Welcome to Harmony Point," Ambassador Zethkalar said. His voice was deep and slow. "We are pleased to meet the newest members of Galactic Civilization." Lisa stepped forward. "Thank you for this honor. We are excited to learn from species with so much more experience than us." War Prime Vexter leaned forward. "Your ships are interesting. We have not seen ion drive technology used in many cycles. Most species move beyond such simple systems." Quickly, Ryan answered with a slight smile. "We've always been careful with our development. We prefer to use only what we need." Scholar Nixara tilted her head. "How curious, your species chooses to limit itself?" "We learned early that moving too fast can cause problems," Lisa explained. "We'd rather take our time and do things right." The 3 aliens exchanged glances. Jake noticed it but kept his expression neutral. "Your vessel appears to be unarmed," Vexler observed. "This is unusual for a first contact mission." Jake spoke up. "We come in peace. We have some basic defensive systems, but nothing that would threaten anyone here." "Basic defensive systems?" Zethkalar's voice carried a note of amusement. "What do you consider basic?" Helen stepped forward. "Simple energy barriers and point defense systems, nothing sophisticated." The aliens seemed to relax slightly. Jake could see them filing away this information, probably thinking humans were even more primitive than they first appeared. "We should begin the formal meetings," Nixara said. "There's much to discuss about trade, cultural exchange, and your species' place in the galactic community." Over the next few hours, the humans met with different alien groups. Each meeting followed the same pattern. The aliens would show off their technology, their history, their achievements. The humans would respond with wonder and gratitude, asking simple questions that made them seem eager but not very advanced. During a break, Jake found himself alone with Ryan in a small room the aliens had given them to use. "They're completely buying it," Ryan said quietly. "Vexler thinks we'd be useful as laborers in their mining operations. Zethkalar wants to trade our quaint art for their basic technologies. And Nixara thinks we're fascinating specimens for her research." "Perfect," Jake replied. "How are our scans coming along?" "Helen's device has mapped their entire station. We know their power systems, their weapons, their communication networks, everything. Ryan paused. Jake, their technology is actually less advanced than what we were using 50 years ago. Jake wasn't surprised. The reports from Earth had suggested this, but it was good to have confirmation. What about their military capabilities? Basic plasma weapons, simple shields, conventional missile systems. Their tactics are straightforward, almost predictable. Ryan looked out the small window at the alien ships moving around the station. We could disable their entire fleet with one ship, but we won't, Jake said firmly. That's not why we're here, I know. But it's still strange, pretending to be impressed by technology that wouldn't challenge a human child. Dr. Lisa Grant joined them. The cultural briefings are fascinating. They have 12 major species in their council, but they've been fighting the same territorial disputes for centuries. No one seems to have figured out how to solve their basic problems. Any signs they suspect anything? Jake asked. None. If anything, they're even more convinced we're harmless than when we arrived. Lisa sat down. Zethkalar offered to protect our defenseless worlds in exchange for tribute. Vexler suggested we might make good soldiers if we're properly trained. Nixara wants to study our primitive emotions. Helen Torres entered the room, her scanner device tucked under her arm. The station's computer systems are incredibly simple. I've already mapped their entire network. They don't even have proper security protocols. Did you leave any traces? Jake asked. Of course not. As far as they know, I've been using this device to take basic readings of their technology. They think it's some kind of primitive analyzer. Jake stood up. Good work, everyone. We'll continue with the meetings as planned. Remember, we're grateful, curious, and just a little out of our depth. The afternoon sessions continued much like the morning ones. The aliens shared more information about their worlds, their politics, their conflicts. The humans asked questions that seemed innocent but gathered exactly the intelligence they needed. During the final meeting of the day, War Prime Vexler made a comment that caught everyone's attention. Your species shows promise, he said. With proper guidance, you might become useful allies in our ongoing conflicts. Lisa responded carefully. We hope to contribute to peace in whatever way we can. Peace? Vexler's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. Young species always speak of peace. You will learn that strength is what matters in this galaxy. Ambassador Zethkalar nodded. The War Prime speaks truth. Your worlds will need protection. The galaxy can be dangerous for those who cannot defend themselves. Jake felt Ryan tense beside him, but his friend's expression remained calm. We appreciate your concern for our safety. Your gratitude is noted, Zethkalar said. We will discuss terms for protection services during our next meeting. As the day ended, the human delegation returned to their ship. Once they were safely in their quarters, Jake called a meeting. Analysis? He asked. They're exactly what our long-range observations suggested, Lisa said. Advanced enough to be dangerous, but not advanced enough to be wise. They've been repeating the same mistakes for centuries. Their military technology is adequate for fighting each other, Ryan added. But it's not sophisticated enough for real threats. What kind of real threats? Jake asked, though he already knew the answer. The kind that wiped out the predecessor civilizations, Helen said quietly. The kind that are still out there, waiting. Jake nodded. This was why humanity had spent 50 years watching from the shadows. These alien species were like children playing with weapons they didn't understand, completely unaware of the real dangers that existed in the galaxy. Tomorrow we'll begin the next phase, Jake said. We'll establish trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and mutual defense pacts. And we'll do it all while making sure they never suspect what we're really capable of. For their own good, Lisa added. For everyone's good, Jake corrected. They're not ready for the truth yet. Maybe someday they will be. As the New Horizon settled into its berth at Harmony Point, its crew prepared for the long mission ahead. They would play their roles perfectly, presenting humanity as a young, eager species seeking its place among the stars. And the aliens would never know that their newest members were actually their guardians. watching over them with the patience of a species that had learned hard lessons about the responsible use of power. 3 months had passed since the first meeting at Harmony Point, the New Horizon. Now moved through space alongside ships from the Galactic Council, part of a trade convoy heading to the outer colonies. Captain Jake Morrison watched the alien vessels through his bridge windows, noting how their formations stayed predictable and their energy signatures remained constant. "Sir, we're receiving a message from the Zentari flagship," Lieutenant Alex Stone reported. "War Prime Vexter wants to speak with you," Jake nodded. "Put him through." The main screen showed Vexter's insect-like face. His forearms moved constantly. As he spoke, a sign Jake had learned meant the alien was excited about something. "Human Jake," Vexter began. "Your species continues to surprise us with your ... efficiency." "Thank you, War Prime. We try to do our best." "Indeed. Your ships maintain perfect formation even in difficult space. Your crew responds to changes faster than species with much more experience." Vexter's mandibles clicked. "It is almost as if you can predict what will happen next." Commander Ryan Burke stepped forward. "We've always been good at reading patterns, War Prime. It's helped us survive on our world." "Patterns," Vexter repeated. "Yes, perhaps that explains it." After the transmission ended, Ryan moved closer. "To Jake, he's getting suspicious. 3 times this week he's commented on our unusual abilities." "I noticed," Jake said quietly. "What's Dr. Grant's assessment?" "She thinks we're walking a thin line. The aliens are starting to ask questions we might not be able to answer much longer." On the other side of the convoy, Scholar Nixara was having her own concerns. She floated in her meditation chamber, reviewing data from her observations of the humans. Something bothered her about their behavior, but she couldn't identify what. Her assistant, a young ethereal named Quintal, entered the chamber. "Scholar, the computational analysis you requested is complete." "Show me," Nixara said. The holographic display showed a series of calculations. "The human computers solved the navigation problems we gave them in 2.3 seconds. According to their specifications, this should have taken at least 10 minutes. Nixara studied the data. Their explanation was that they used different programming methods." "Yes, but Scholar, I tested their explanation. Their methods should actually make the computers slower, not faster." "Interesting. What else have you discovered?" Quintal brought up another display. "Their medical officer treated injured crew members from the Hegemony ship last week. She used techniques that cured radiation poisoning in hours. Our best doctors need days for the same treatment." "And, her explanation?" "She said humans developed these methods because their homeworld has dangerous radiation in some areas. But Scholar, I checked the data about Earth. There are no radiation zones that would require such advanced medical knowledge." Nixara felt a chill run through her ethereal form. "Continue monitoring them. Report anything unusual directly to me." The convoy continued its journey for 2 more weeks. During this time, the humans continued their careful act, but small incidents kept occurring that raised questions. Dr. Helen Torres was in the convoy's shared laboratory when Ambassador Zethkalar visited. The reptilian diplomat watched her work with what appeared to be a simple energy scanner. "Your equipment is quite basic," he observed, "yet you seem to gather detailed information with it." Helen smiled. "We've learned to make the most of what we have. Sometimes simple tools work better than complex ones." "Perhaps. But this reading you've taken of our engine systems shows details that our own advanced scanners miss." "Really? That's surprising. Maybe our scanner works differently than yours." Zethkalar leaned closer. "Show me how it works." Helen hesitated for just a moment, then opened the device. Inside, Zethkalar saw components that looked primitive but were arranged in ways he didn't recognize. "These crystal formations," he said. "What are they?" "Power storage units. We grow them on Earth using a simple process." "Grow them?" "Crystals that can store energy are not usually grown. They are manufactured using complex procedures we found." "A different way," Helen said. "Sometimes being primitive has advantages." After Zethkalar left, Helen immediately contacted Jake. We have a problem. He's asking too many technical questions. How much did you reveal? Nothing important, but he's not stupid. He knows something doesn't add up. The situation became more serious when the convoy encountered space pirates. The attack came without warning as they traveled through an asteroid field. 12 heavily armed ships surrounded the convoy, demanding surrender. War Prime Vexter immediately took command of the defense. All ships, prepare for battle. Humans, move to the rear of the formation. Your vessels are not equipped for combat. Jake watched as the alien ships formed defensive lines. Their tactics were textbook standard, but the pirates had superior numbers and weapons. Sir, the alien ships are taking heavy damage, Alex reported. Their shields are failing. Ryan, assessment? The pirates are using military-grade weapons, probably stolen from a Zentari armory. The convoy ships can't match their firepower. Jake watched as 2 of the alien ships exploded. The remaining vessels were falling back, their formation breaking. Apart, sir, Ambassador Zethkalar is requesting immediate evacuation to our ship, Alex said. He says their situation is hopeless. Jake made a decision. Alex opened a channel to the pirate fleet. Sir, do it. The main screen showed a scarred alien face with cybernetic implants. Human ship, surrender or be destroyed. We'd prefer to avoid violence, Jake said calmly. Perhaps we can reach an agreement, the pirate leader laughed. Your convoy is finished. Surrender your cargo, and we might let you live? I'm afraid we can't do that, Jake replied. Alex requests permission to adjust our output slightly. Alex's fingers moved over his console. Permission granted, sir. Jake turned back to the pirates. Last chance to withdraw peacefully. Destroy the human ship first, the pirate leader ordered. Show the others what happens to those who resist. The pirate fleet opened fire on the New Horizon. Their weapons hit the human ship's shields, creating bright flashes of light. When the light faded, the New Horizon was completely undamaged. Interesting, Jake said. Ryan, return fire. Set output to 2%. 2%, sir? That seems excessive. Use your judgment. The New Horizon's weapons fired once. 12 beams of pure energy struck the pirate ships. In less than 3 seconds, the entire pirate fleet was reduced to glowing debris. The convoy fell silent. No one spoke for several minutes. Finally, War Prime Vexler's voice came over the communication system. Human Jake, your weapons. Yes, War Prime? They are not basic defensive systems. Jake paused. We may have understated our capabilities slightly. Slightly? Ambassador Zethkalar's voice was shaking. You destroyed 12 military vessels in seconds. Dr. Lisa Grant stepped forward. We don't like violence, Ambassador. But we won't allow innocent people to be harmed. How? Scholar Nixara asked. Your energy readings showed primitive technology? How is this possible? Dr. Helen Torres answered carefully. We have safety protocols on our systems. We only use what we need for normal operations. Safety protocols? Vexler's mandibles clicked rapidly. You mean you deliberately limit your weapons? Among other things, Ryan said, the convoy resumed its journey, but the atmosphere had changed completely. The alien crew members whispered among themselves, casting nervous glances at the human ship. Their comfortable assumptions about the newcomers had been shattered. In his private quarters, Ambassador Zethkalar contacted High Commander Kalinov on the secure channel. Commander, we have a problem, he reported. The humans are not what they appear to be, explained. Their technology is far more advanced than they claimed. They destroyed a pirate fleet that our combined forces could not handle. Are you certain? I witnessed it myself. And there have been other incidents. Small things that didn't seem important at the time, but now. What are you suggesting? I think they have been deceiving us from the beginning. The question is, why? High Commander Kalinoth was quiet for a long moment. Begin a full investigation. I want to know everything about this human species. Their real capabilities, their intentions, everything. And if we discover they are a threat, then we deal with them before they can use their true power against us. Meanwhile, on the New Horizon, Jake called a meeting with his senior staff. The situation has changed, he said. They're asking questions we can't answer without revealing more than we want to. Maybe it's time to consider telling them the truth, Lisa suggested. Some of it, Ryan agreed, but not all of it. They're not ready for the whole truth. What do you mean? Alex asked. Helen answered. They think what they saw today was impressive. They have no idea it was the equivalent of a human child throwing a pebble. The real question, Jake said, is how much can we reveal without causing panic or war, Ryan added. If they realize how outmatched they are, they might decide to attack us while they think they still have a chance. Then we need to be very careful about our next moves, Jake concluded. We're walking into dangerous territory. As the convoy continued toward its destination, both sides prepared for whatever would come next. The aliens began investigating their new allies, while the humans debated how much truth the galaxy could handle. The careful balance of the first contact was beginning to crumble. 2 weeks after the pirate attack, tension filled the conference room at Harmony Point. The curved table that had once hosted friendly meetings now felt like a battlefield. Captain Jake Morrison sat across from the alien leadership, their faces showing mixtures of fear, anger, and suspicion. War Prime Vexler S. forearms moved constantly as he spoke. Human Jake, we have been patient. We have been understanding. But our patience has limits. Ambassador Zeth Kalar leaned forward, his yellow eyes fixed on the human delegation. Our investigations have revealed disturbing facts about your species. You have been lying to us from the beginning. Scholar Nixara floated slightly above her chair, her black eyes reflecting the room's lights. The evidence is clear. Your technology far exceeds what you have shown us. Your capabilities are not primitive as you claimed. High Commander Kellanoth, who had arrived just that morning, spoke in a voice that carried authority from a lifetime of military command. We know about your deception. The question is what you plan to do with your hidden power. Dr. Lisa Grant tried to maintain her diplomatic composure. We understand your concerns. Perhaps we have been too cautious about revealing our full capabilities. Too cautious? Vexler's mandibles clicked angrily. You made us believe you were weak and helpless. You gathered intelligence on all our species while pretending to be grateful students. We were grateful, Lisa replied. We learned much about your cultures, your histories, your weaknesses, Kellanoth interrupted. Do not insult our intelligence further with your diplomatic words. Jake stood up slowly. You're right. We have not been completely honest with you. Finally, some truth, Seth Kalar said. Now tell us what you really want. Are you planning to conquer us? To enslave us? To destroy us? None of those things, Jake said. We want to help you. The aliens exchanged glances. Vexler's laughter was harsh. Help us by lying to us? By spying on us? By protecting you, Commander Ryan Burke said quietly. Protecting us from what? Nixara asked. From whom? From dangers you don't even know exist, Dr. Helen Torres replied. From threats that destroyed civilizations before your species even developed space travel. Kellanoth slammed his fist on the table. Enough riddles! Enough lies! Tell us the truth or face the consequences. What consequences? Jake asked calmly. War, Vexler said. The combined fleets of 12 species against your few ships. You would lose, Ryan said simply. Arrogant words from a species that hides behind deception, Kellanoth replied. We have thousands of ships. Millions of warriors. What do you have? Jake looked at his team. Lisa shook her head slightly, warning him to be careful. Helen nodded, suggesting they needed to reveal more. Ryan remained neutral, leaving the decision to him. We have restraint, Jake said finally. Restraint? Zeth Kalar's voice was mocking. That is your great weapon? Yes, Jake replied. And it's the most important weapon any species can possess. Explain, Kellanoth demanded. Jake sat back down. Very well. But understand that what I'm about to tell you will change everything. The room fell silent. Even the background hum of the station's system seemed to quiet. In all our interactions with your species, Jake began. In all our technology demonstrations, in all our military exercises, in all our diplomatic meetings, we have been operating at approximately 1% of our actual capabilities. The silence stretched for several heartbeats. Then Vexler spoke. 1%? That is impossible. The pirate attack, Lisa said. When we destroyed their fleet in seconds, that was 1% of our weapons capability. Our computers that solve your problems so quickly, Helen added. They're running at 1% of their processing power. Our medical treatments that seem so advanced to you, Ryan continued, they're basic first aid by our standards. Scholar Nixara's ethereal form flickered with shock. You're saying that everything we've witnessed is a tiny fraction of your true abilities? Yes, Jake confirmed. Lies, Kellanoff said, but his voice lacked conviction. If this were true, you would have conquered the galaxy already. Why? Jake asked. What would be the point? Power, Vexler said immediately. Control, resources, the same reasons any species seeks conquest. Those are the reasons species fight when they're still learning, Lisa replied. We learned those lessons long ago. What lessons? Nixara asked. Helen answered. That true power isn't about what you can destroy. It's about what you choose not to destroy. Pretty words, Ithkalar said. But we need proof of your claims, Jake sighed. I was hoping to avoid this. Avoid what? Kellanoff asked. Scaring you, Jake replied. But if you insist on proof, he turned to Helen. Doctor, please demonstrate our basic defensive protocols. Helen hesitated. Jake, are you sure? Once we do this, there's no going back. They've made their choice, Jake said. Show them. Helen pulled out a small device that looked like the simple scanner she'd been using for months. But now she adjusted several settings that hadn't been visible before. This device, she said, has been passively monitoring all the technology on this station since we arrived. Every computer, every power system, every life support unit, every communication array. Monitoring how? Kellanoff demanded. Completely. We know every circuit, every program, every function. Helen's finger hovered over a control. I can demonstrate by temporarily disabling everything? You cannot disable our technology, Vexler said. Our systems have protections. Your protections? Assume threats from technology similar to your own, Helen replied. You're not protected against this. She pressed the control. Every light in the room went out. The hum of air circulation stopped. The gentle vibration of the station's rotation ceased. Emergency lighting failed to activate. Communication panels went dark. Even the artificial gravity fluctuated. In the darkness, Jake's voice remained calm. Don't panic. Everything will return to normal in exactly 60 seconds. The aliens couldn't respond. Their translation devices weren't working. Their personal communicators were dead. They sat in complete darkness, feeling more helpless than any of them had ever experienced. Exactly 60 seconds later, every system came back online. Lights returned, air circulation resumed, gravity stabilized. The station's functions returned to normal as if nothing had happened. The aliens sat in stunned silence. How? Nixara finally whispered. Basic quantum field manipulation, Helen said. We learned to do this about 200 years ago. It's one of our simpler technologies. You could have killed us all, Zethkalar said, his voice shaking. We could have, Jake agreed, but we didn't. That's the point. This is what you call 1%, Kellanoff asked. Actually, that was more like 0.01%, Ryan said. True 1% would have been noticeable from several star systems away. War Prime Vexler's mandibles clicked rapidly. If you have this power, why haven't you used it? Why pretend to be weak? Because, Lisa said gently, we remember what it was like to be where you are now. What do you mean? Nixara asked. 500 years ago, humanity was much like your species are today, Jake explained. We fought wars over resources, territory, ideology. We built weapons to threaten each other. We believed that strength meant the ability to destroy our enemies. What changed? Zethkalar asked. We almost destroyed ourselves, Helen said quietly. Several times. We learned that true strength isn't about having the power to destroy. It's about having the wisdom not to use that power. So you developed this technology and then stopped using it? Kelenoth asked. We learned to use it responsibly, Jake corrected. We use it to protect, not to conquer. We use it to help, not to harm. And now? Vexter asked. What happens now that we know? Now we decide together what comes next, Lisa said. We can continue as we have, with you knowing the truth. Or we can work together more openly. Work together how? Nixara asked. Your species face challenges you cannot solve alone, Ryan said. Resource conflicts, territorial disputes, technological limitations. We can help you overcome these problems. In exchange for what? Kelenoth asked suspiciously. Nothing, Jake said. Except perhaps the chance to prevent you from making the same mistakes we made. This is difficult to accept, Sethkalar said. You're saying you want to help us out of kindness? Out of responsibility, Jake corrected. When you have great power, you have great responsibility. We learned that lesson the hard way. What if we refuse your help? Vexter asked. What? If we want you to leave us alone? Then we'll respect that choice, Lisa said. But we'll keep watching from a distance. And if you face threats you cannot handle alone, we'll be there. What kinds of threats? Nixara asked. The humans exchanged glances. Finally, Jake spoke. There are things in this galaxy that make our power seem small. Ancient machines that destroyed entire civilizations. Entities that exist beyond normal space and time. Forces that your current technology cannot even detect, let alone fight. And you can fight these things? Kelenoth asked. We can try, Jake said. But we're much more effective when we work together with other species rather than trying to protect them without their knowledge. The room fell quiet again as the aliens processed this information. Finally, Scholar Nixara spoke. This changes everything we thought we knew about the galaxy. Yes, Jake agreed, it does. The question is what we do with this new knowledge. We need time to discuss this among ourselves. The news spread across the galaxy faster than anyone had expected. Within 6 hours of the demonstration at Harmony Point, every major civilization knew about humanity's revelation. The recording that Scholar Nixara had hidden in the conference room was being broadcast on every communication network in known space on the Zentari homeworld. War Prime Kethver watched the recording for the 5th time. His battle-scarred face showed no emotion, but his forearms trembled slightly as he spoke to his council. If this is true, he said, then we have been living next to a sleeping giant. A giant that could crush us without effort. General Lexmore, one of his most trusted advisors, leaned forward. War Prime, our intelligence suggests the humans have only a few dozen ships. Surely our fleets can overwhelm them through sheer numbers. Did you not watch the recording? Kethver asked. They disabled an entire space station with a device the size of a scanner. Numbers mean nothing against such power. Then what do you suggest? Asked Admiral Zexkin. We strike first, Kethver decided, before they decide we are a threat. Before they use more than their 1% against us. Across the galaxy in the crystal cities of the Hegemony Council, Ambassador Zethkalar's superiors were having a very different discussion. Prime Minister Yulthanas paced back and forth in his office, his scaled feet clicking on the polished floor. This explains everything. Their humble behavior, their basic technology, their peaceful attitudes, it was all an act. Not an act, corrected Counselor Vexina. A choice. They chose to appear weak when they were strong. Why would any species make such a choice? Asked Minister Cardeth. The same reason a parent hides weapons from a child, Vexina replied. To prevent accidents. Are you suggesting we are children to them? Yulthanas stopped pacing. I'm suggesting we should be very careful about how we respond to this revelation. Meanwhile, in the ethereal realm that served as the home dimension for Scholar Nixara's people, an emergency council was taking place. Hundreds of floating forms gathered in the space that existed between realities Elder Morthalis spoke with, a voice that echoed across dimensions. The human revelation changes our understanding of this galaxy's balance of power. More than that, said Nixara. I've been studying their history since the demonstration. Their wars, their conflicts. Their development, everything makes sense now. Explain, commanded the elder. What they called their world wars were not primitive conflicts between nations. They were controlled tests of weapons technology. What they called their Cold War was not a political standoff. It was a century-long experiment in psychological warfare and strategic restraint. The assembled ethereals fell silent. Finally, another elder spoke. You're saying their entire recorded history is a record of them learning to control their power? Yes, and the terrifying part is that they succeeded. They learned restraint. They learned wisdom. They learned to choose peace even when they had the power to choose war. Why is that terrifying? Asked a younger ethereal. Because it means they are not like us. They are not like any species we know. They are something new. On Earth, Captain Jake Morrison stood in a briefing room deep beneath the surface. Around him sat the real leaders of humanity, people whose names were not known to the galactic community. Fleet Admiral Kate Sullivan reviewed reports from across the galaxy. The Centauri are mobilizing their battle fleets, she said. Intelligence suggests they're planning a preemptive strike. The Hegemony Council is split, reported General Mike Chun. Half want to negotiate tribute agreements. The other half want to impose restrictions on our movements. What about the ethereals? Asked Dr. Susan Park, humanity's chief xenopsychologist. They've withdrawn from all contact, Jake replied. But our long-range sensors show they're not preparing for war. They're afraid, but they're thinking instead of reacting. Admiral Sullivan brought up a holographic display showing the positions of alien fleets throughout the galaxy. We have 36 hours before the Centauri reach our outer colonies. What are our orders? President Maria Santos, a woman whose existence was hidden from the galactic community, spoke for the first time. We continue with the plan. No offensive actions. No shows of force. We protect our people, but we don't escalate. Madam President, General Chun said, they're planning to attack us with everything they have. Shouldn't we at least prepare our defenses? Our defenses are always prepared, President Santos replied. The question is how much we reveal when we use them. Back on Harmony Point, the alien leadership was meeting in emergency session. High Commander Kelenoth had called together representatives from all 12 major species to decide on a unified response. The situation is clear, he announced. Humanity has deceived us from the beginning. They have gathered intelligence on all our species while hiding their true capabilities. This cannot be allowed to continue. Ambassador Zeth Kalar raised a clawed hand. Commander, with respect, what they revealed suggests that any military action against them would be suicide. Are you suggesting we surrender without a fight? Demanded War Prime Vexther. I'm suggesting we think carefully before we start a war we cannot win, Zeth Kalar replied. But we cannot simply ignore what they have done, argued Representative Hickstel from the Trading Federation. They made fools of us. They studied us like specimens in a laboratory. Scholar Nixara S. voice came through the communication system. From her ship, perhaps that was exactly what they were doing. Explain, Kelenoth demanded. I've been analyzing human behavior patterns and historical records. I believe they were evaluating us, testing us, trying to determine if we were ready for the truth. Ready for what truth? Asked Vexther. The truth about what exists in this galaxy beyond our understanding. Before anyone could respond, alarms began sounding throughout Harmony Point. Lieutenant Commander Dexiran rushed into the conference room. Sirs, we're detecting massive energy signatures approaching from multiple directions. Unknown vessels, technology unlike anything in our databases. On the main display, dark shapes appeared at the edge of the sensor range. They were enormous, easily 10 times the size of the largest alien ships. Their hulls seemed to absorb light, making them difficult to see clearly. How many? Kelenoth asked. 12 contacts, sir. Wait, 18, 24, sir, they're still. Appearing, War Prime Vexther stood up. Battle stations. Prepare all defenses. Sir, Dexiran's voice was shaking. Our weapons systems are not responding. None of our technology is working. Across the station, panic began to spread. Emergency lights flickered and failed. Communication systems went silent. Even life support began to fluctuate. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, everything returned to normal. A new voice came over the communication system. It was Captain Jake Morrison. Harmony Point, this is the New Horizon. Please respond. Human Jake? Kelleneth said. What just happened? What were those ships? Those were the Devourers, Jake replied calmly. An ancient machine intelligence that consumes entire star systems. They've been dormant for 3,000 years, but something woke them up. Where did they go? Nixara asked. Nowhere. They're still there. You just can't see them anymore. Why not? Zethkalar demanded. Because we asked them to leave, and they agreed. The conference room fell silent. You asked them to leave? Vexter said slowly. We've dealt with them before, several times actually. It's part of why we've been watching your civilizations so carefully. You mean, Kelleneth said, these Devourers are the threat you mentioned? One of them, Jake confirmed. There are others. The Voidwalkers, the Starkillers, the entity that lives in the space between dimensions. Your species have been incredibly lucky that none of them have awakened during your development. But they're awakening now? Nixara asked. Yes, your expanding civilizations, your energy signatures, your wars, they're creating enough noise to wake things that should stay sleeping. And you can stop them? Kelleneth asked. We can negotiate with some of them. Fight others when necessary. Redirect a few. But we can't do it while pretending to be primitive traders, Ambassador Zethkalar spoke carefully. Are you saying you need our help? We're saying you need our protection, and we need your cooperation. War Prime Vexther's mandibles clicked slowly. The Zentari fleet approaching your colonies... will be allowed to pass safely, Jake said. But when they arrive, they'll find our colonies defended by technology they can't fight. We prefer to avoid that demonstration. What do you want from us? Kelleneth asked. A new agreement. One based on truth instead of deception. One where we work together to keep the galaxy safe from threats that none of us can face alone. And if we refuse? Vexther asked. Then we'll continue protecting you without your knowledge, as we have been doing. But it will be much harder and much more dangerous for everyone. The alien leaders looked at each other. The comfortable illusions of the past few months had been completely shattered. They now understood that their galaxy was far more dangerous than they had ever imagined, and that their survival depended on creatures they had thought were inferior to them. We need time to consider this, Kelleneth said finally. Of course, Jake replied, but don't take too long. The Devourers were just a test. Something much worse is coming, and we need to be ready for it. As the communication ended, the alien leaders sat in stunned silence. 7 days after the Devourer incident, representatives from all 12 major species gathered on Earth. It was the first time any alien had been invited to humanity's homeworld, and what they saw there changed their understanding of everything. The transport ships descended through Earth's atmosphere, expecting to see a primitive world with basic cities and simple technology. Instead, they found themselves looking at something that seemed impossible. Cities floated in the sky, held aloft not by crude anti-gravity generators, but by carefully controlled manipulation of fundamental forces. The ocean sparkled with underwater settlements that existed in perfect harmony with marine life that had been extinct on other worlds for millions of years. Mountains had been reshaped into beautiful gardens that stretched for hundreds of miles. Ambassador Zethkalar pressed his face against the transport window. This is not the world we scanned from space. Dr. Lisa Grant, who was serving as their guide, smiled. What you scanned was a projection. We've been hiding our real development for quite some time. Why? Asked Scholar Nixara. Why hide such beauty? Because, Dr. Helen Torres replied, civilizations that develop too quickly often destroy themselves. We learn to be careful about what we show to others. The transports landed at what appeared to be a simple building, but as the aliens stepped out, they realized it was much larger than it seemed. The structure extended deep underground and stretched far beyond what their eyes could see. War Prime. Vexler looked around suspiciously. Where are your defenses? Your weapons? Your military installations? Commander Ryan Burke appeared beside them, having moved so quietly that none of the aliens had noticed his approach. You're standing in the middle of our primary defense grid. The entire planet is one integrated system. I see no weapons, Vexler insisted. That's because you're thinking of weapons as things that destroy, Ryan replied. Our weapons are designed to protect and preserve. High Commander Kellanoff studied the human soldiers who stood at attention nearby. They looked relaxed, almost casual, but something about their bearing suggested incredible discipline and training. How many troops do you have? He asked. Every human is trained for defense, Captain Jake Morrison said as he joined the group. But we prefer other solutions to conflict. They were led into the building, which turned out to be far more advanced than anything the aliens had seen. The walls seemed to be made of living light, constantly shifting and changing color. The floors felt solid but somehow gave the impression of floating. President Maria Santos waited for them in a conference room that defied physics. The space seemed both intimate and vast at the same time, with a table that adjusted its size automatically to accommodate all the participants comfortably. Welcome to Earth, she said. I apologize for the deception, but we felt it was necessary. Necessary? For what? Demanded Kellanoff. To determine whether your species were ready for the truth about this galaxy. Fleet Admiral Kate Sullivan activated a holographic display that showed the known galaxy, but with far more detail than any alien map had ever contained. Dark areas marked regions that were off-limits. Red zones indicated active threats. Yellow areas showed unstable space where reality itself was uncertain. This is what the galaxy really looks like, Admiral Sullivan explained. The peaceful areas where your civilizations developed represent less than 5% of known space. The rest? Asked Nixara. Dangerous, Dr. Susan Park replied. Filled with things that your current technology cannot detect, understand, or fight. Things like the Devourers? Zeth Kalar asked. The Devourers are actually relatively simple, Jake said. They're machines. They follow programming. They can be reasoned with, redirected, or if necessary, destroyed. What's worse than the Devourers? Vexler asked. President Santos touched. A control and the display changed to show something that made several aliens step backward in fear. It appeared to be a tear in space itself, with tendrils of darkness reaching out toward nearby star systems. The Void Walkers, she said quietly. Entities that exist in the spaces between dimensions. They feed on reality itself. When they wake up, entire sectors of space simply stop existing. How do you fight something like that? Kellanoff whispered. Very carefully, Admiral Sullivan replied. And with technologies that your species are not ready to understand yet. But you can fight them? Nixara asked. We've done it before, Jake confirmed, several times. It's not easy, and we don't always win completely, but we've learned how to contain them. Why? Zeth Kalar asked suddenly. Why do you protect us? What do you gain from it? President Santos was quiet for a moment. Because we remember what it was like to be alone in a dangerous universe. We remember the fear, the uncertainty, the feeling that any day might be our last. When did that change for you? Asked Scholar Nixara. About 300 years ago, Dr. Park replied. We encountered our first truly alien threat. Something called the Star Killers. They were harvesting our sun for energy. What happened? Vexler asked. We nearly lost everything, Jake said. Our entire species came within hours of extinction. We only survived because we learned to work together. Completely. Every human, every resource, every piece of technology focused on a single goal. And you won? Kellanoff asked. We won, Admiral Sullivan confirmed. But the cost was enormous. We lost billions of people. Entire planets were destroyed. It took us decades to recover. That's when we made a decision, President Santos continued. Never again would we allow a young species to face such threats alone. Never again would we stand by and watch a civilization die because they weren't ready for what was coming. The aliens absorbed this information in silence. Finally, Ambassador Zethkalar spoke. So when you found us, you decided to protect us. We decided to prepare you, Dr. Torres corrected. Protection is temporary. Preparation lasts forever. What kind of preparation? Asked Nixara. Teaching you to work together, Lisa said. Helping you solve your resource conflicts, your territorial disputes, your political differences. A united galaxy is much stronger than a divided one. And if we had remained united, Jake added, eventually we would have revealed ourselves and begun teaching you how to defend yourselves against the real threats. But that plan has changed now, Ryan observed. Yes, President Santos agreed. The revelation has forced us to accelerate our timeline significantly. War Prime Vexter had been unusually quiet during this discussion. Finally, he spoke. My fleets are still approaching your colonies. What will happen when they arrive? They'll be welcomed, Jake said simply. We'll show them what we've shown. We'll explain the situation. And then we'll ask them to help us with something more important than conquest. What could be more important than conquest to a Zentari warrior? Vexter asked. Survival, Admiral Sullivan replied. Because something much worse than the Devourers is coming. Something that will make our previous battles look like children's games. She activated another display, this one showing sensor readings from the edge of known space. Strange patterns of energy moving in ways that defied physics. The entropy. Swarm, she said. A collection of entities that exist to unmake creation itself. They're still distant, but they're coming. And when they arrive, every species in this galaxy will need to work together or face complete annihilation. How long do we have? Kellanoth asked. Perhaps 50 years, Dr. Park estimated. Maybe less if they accelerate. And you believe we can be ready in that time? Nixara asked. If we work together, President Santos said. If we share knowledge, technology, and resources. If we put aside old conflicts and focus on the common threat. What exactly are you proposing? Zethkalar asked. A new Galactic Council, Jake replied. One that includes humanity as full members. One where decisions are made based on survival rather than politics. And humanity would lead this council? Vexler asked suspiciously. Humanity would serve this council, President Santos corrected. We would provide protection and advanced technology. You would provide knowledge of your sectors, your species' unique capabilities, and your help in preparing for what's coming. What if some species refuse to join? Kellanoth asked. Then we protect them anyway, Admiral Sullivan said. But we'd prefer their cooperation. Scholar Nixara floated higher, her ethereal form glowing brighter. This is a fundamental change. In how our galaxy operates, yes, Lisa agreed. But fundamental change is sometimes necessary for survival. You're asking us to trust a species that has been deceiving us from the beginning, Vexter pointed out. We're asking you to trust a species that has been protecting you from the beginning, Ryan corrected. The deception was just our method. And now? Zethkalar asked. Now we work together openly, Jake said. No more secrets, no more deception. No more pretending to be something we're not. What about your 1% limitation? Kellanoth asked. That was never a limitation, Dr. Torres explained. That was a choice. We can make different choices when the situation requires it. Like against the entropy swarm? Nixara asked. Like against the entropy swarm. President Santos confirmed. The room fell silent as the aliens considered what they had learned. The comfortable boundaries of their old universe had been completely redrawn. They now understood that their survival depended not on their own strength,